Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest hit of Rugby Nation. We have got two of the biggest boppers that Melbourne can offer up, joining Beth Newman and myself, Sean Maloney. Let's get straight to them. The pair. How is that lounge holding up, propping the two of you clear of the floor?
Luckily, there's a stable base, so I think that really helps.
No, it's not big. It's my missus' lounge, actually. She reckons it's an 8-seater, but definitely not an 8-seater.
Just two front rows.
How are you guys going in isolation at the moment? How are you getting through it all?
We're just trying to keep into a routine to get used to stuff every day, not to go crazy with you not knowing what to do with yourself after training and after you had your stuff to do.
Yeah, it's like both. It's mostly just a routine thing, I think. Us as footy players obviously have everything so structured. Now that we're done, we've got to find our own structure, which is a big challenge for all of us. So, but luckily, me and him are helping each other, trying to have some sort of structure, you know. So,
how are you keeping the weight under control? Because you two stuck in isolation with unlimited access to as much biltong and Bryce style food, it could end up you going back to training at 170 kilos.
Yeah, we always have this saying, me and him, we'll start Monday. So, we've done it right, I think. So we'll see when we get back what the scales say. We stay away from the scales. So.
Who's the Bri champion at the moment?
I know we share duties for sure. There's always I haven't done it for a while because when I was with my brother, we always done it. So now I have to get back in the mix, trying to do it myself again. But me and Cabous share it. So.
How are you going, being away from the twin? How's that all playing out at the moment?
It's good. It's harder. It's a lot harder than I thought. I do miss him, but I mean, we've been lucky enough to play the majority of our careers together. So I guess it's about time we separate because sometimes we're good for each other, but we're also bad for each other.
It looks like you've got a ready-made replacement on your left, though. Another bloke who's come out of South Africa, come to Australia for a crack. Tell us, how did you end up down at Melbourne, Cabous?
They found one of my previous coaches that coached me before, and the coach called me and asked, "Listen, would you be interested to come and play for the Rebels?" And I said, "Yes, definitely." And then I think it was a week or so after that, then we finalized the deal that I can come to the side.
And how has it been for you being, so far away from your family at the moment, particularly with everything that's going on?
Some days it's harder than others, but the people here made it so much more comfortable for me. They help me a lot. They're phoning me every day to hear if I'm all right, do I need anything. So they're helping me a lot on this side.
Mate, it's great to have you on Australian shores. Now, things were going along kind of okay. You blokes were starting to get into a groove before COVID hit, and then kind of all hell's broken loose. So we've obviously had those Ruper player payment discussions over the last couple of weeks. We're going to let Beth now launch into the ins and outs, the details, so the three of us don't have to worry about it. So, Beth, I'm going to let you pick up here. Run us through what the latest is, and then maybe we'll get a line off the two big boppers on the other side.
Yeah, well, after some weeks of not a whole lot happening, it's been kind of a busy 24 hours. The deal between Ruper and Rugby Australia was announced on Monday night, and basically across the board, players are going to take an average of a 60% salary cut over the next 6 months, which is, quite significant, and also, significantly as well tiered towards the biggest names in rugby, in Australian rugby. And everyone, it's kind of an interesting situation because the players are going to be in the same situation as a lot of staff at Rugby Australia and a lot of workers around Australia at the moment as well, that the JobKeeper payments will be a really, key element of the deal, and that everyone will be at least getting that amount for the next 6 months. And then, if footy resumes before September 30, things could change again. But, I think everyone was probably relieved to see a little bit of, a little bit of finality in that and a little bit of structure going forward. Another pretty important tenet of the deal is that 6 kind of the top players in Australian rugby are going to have the option as well to take a sabbatical in the next, before the 2023 World Cup. So, talking guys like Michael Hooper and Matt Tamua, Dane Haylett-Petty, those kind of guys are going to have the opportunity to maybe recoup some of the the salary that they are losing, and it's going to be a really difficult 6 months for lots of people. But I think that the overwhelming sense from last night was that it's good to have a little bit of finality, and is that kind of the sense that you guys have, that that it's good to have a little bit of clarity and a little bit of structure going forward?
It is. I spoke to a few boys this morning. It's finally good to have exactly where we're going for the next 6 months, but he's saying that the concern is officially a reality now. So I don't know. Everyone's a bit worried, but it's finally happened. So at least you can plan ahead for the next 6 months or so and try and get through it.
Just on that, Ruan, we had Lockie McCaffrey last week talking about what things might look like on the other side of COVID-19 coming to a close. Can I just get a quick thought from you on what you'd like to resume in? So let's just assume Super Rugby's buried for the moment. What would you like to come back to?
Preferably at least some footy. If Super Rugby doesn't resume, some club rugby preferably. I would love to personally play a bit of club rugby again and get things going. I think everyone's in a bit uncertain what exactly is the format looking like moving forward. But I think just as long as you can get to play some rugby somewhere and get some structure and routine back.
And I guess you guys probably have a slightly different perspective, having that South African background as well. There's always so much chat about Super Rugby and the format and whether it works or not. Do you think there's still an appetite from South African fans to see them play, Australia and New Zealand teams on a long-term basis?
We don't really know, because we don't know what's going to happen. If South Africa's going to be put one side, Super Rugby, or they're going to continue. So we can't really make the decision. We obviously want South Africa to keep in the competition, but unfortunately that's not our part.
Yeah, I think for players, we enjoy going to South Africa. We enjoy the travel and that sort of thing. But my personal opinion is I don't think South Africans and Australians enjoy the cross games. I don't think the South Africans watch the Australian teams. You know what I mean? So personally, I think including Australians don't watch those games as well. That's what I think. That's what I've heard. So I think that sort of thing is basically dead. The cross country sort of thing. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's just changed so much, hasn't it, mate? Like when Super Rugby was like absolutely hammering along, the bloke on your left wasn't even born. I mean, that's kind of how far back you're going. And just speaking from a perspective of family and friends who, I just think those viewing habits have changed a lot as well, Beth, in that people are a bit more reluctant to be up at 3 a.m. in the morning now and that kind of thing. So I get where you're going with that. Let's go back to before it all fell apart so terribly across the world. The squad slow out of the blocks, but then looked as though they were starting to pick up some form. What was the thing that you thought was turning in the right direction? And give us a bit of insight into some of those new players that you've both joined in 2020. Who have you liked knocking around with at the Melbourne Rebels, and who's impressed you on the park as well?
My perspective, we didn't have a lot of time before Super Rugby because some of the guys was on holiday after the World Cup. And the whole preseason we actually didn't even have backs. So that was a big part of everything why we struggled for a while. But I think since after we came together and we started knowing each other and getting comfortable around each other, then everything started going very smooth.
In terms of boys, I think Pup and Dane and those boys are steering the ship very nicely. As forwards, we've got clear direction all around the park. We know what's happening, we know where to go, which is obviously important. So those two are a big key to our game.
Ruan, it's a bit of chat that you're a bit of the kind of prop dad in some ways, taking a few of the newer faces and the front rowers under your wing. Is that been something that you've tried to do a little bit, obviously earlier in the year?
Yeah, I think so. I think sort of. I think I'm the oldest prop there.
You're definitely the oldest prop there. You could not just be the prop dad. You could be the dad of the young bloke next to you.
I've got 10 years on him. He keeps me younger. I think we've all gelled really well as a front row. So everyone's got to input. The thing about the Rebels, everyone scrums a lot differently. Each player, there's a lot of different ways to scrum, and everyone coming together is really nice. But there's a lot of old heads like Bob and Jermaine's been around. So everyone's got a fair bit of knowledge and input, which always helps.
It sure does. It sure does. You mentioned that you're missing your brother a little bit. What about Taniela Tupou? You're missing Tongan Thor?
I miss all those boys. I still speak to them on a weekly basis. All the front row boys, Marfs and Taniela and Brandon and my brother and all those boys. I miss them a lot. I grew a strong friendship with them. So yeah, I do miss them. So it'll be interesting when we play against them. It'll be fun.
And Cabous, you touched on the fact that you obviously come out of South Africa. So you were a 20s rep with the Blue Bulls. Who are some of the guys that have gone through into Super Rugby that you still stay in contact with over in the Republic?
I have a lot of friends that I still stay in contact with. Some of them don't even play rugby, some of them at other unions. But guys like Miller Ace, Ron Orkia, guys like that, I talk to them, let's say, once a month, just to touch base and hear how everything is going. And I miss my friends a lot back home. It gets tough sometimes, but in the end, it's the bigger picture that matters.
And with no scrummaging sessions going on at the moment, how are you guys practicing, packing down and that sort of thing? Have you got anything inventive that you've started to do to try and keep in touch?
There's a few holes in the walls, yeah, if you go around. But, we sort of do a few asymmetric stuff and so, but it's a good time for us to save the back as well. So take a bit of pressure, but we do sometimes just tick a few boxes here and there. So.
Hang on, what did you say? It's a good time to shave your back. What did you just say?
Save the back.
Oh, God, just save the back. I was speaking from experience. And what about is the Afrikaans being exchanged? Are you guys keeping your Afrikaans rolling together as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Who else is in the house with the two of you?
Just me and my missus.
Oh, nice one. I feel sorry for her. And what about the difference between Brisbane and Melbourne or Pretoria and Melbourne? What's jumped out at you about the city down south?
In the beginning, I thought it's going to be very different here. Because I didn't know how it was here at all. I've never been here before. It's a lot similar. Bigger buildings and all that stuff, but the people here and the way of living is basically the same.
Who has better coffee, Pretoria or Melbourne?
I like my coffee, but I like the coffee I like, so I only drink that type of coffee. But Melbourne has good coffee, yes.
What's your specific coffee order?
Greek coffee. It's a South African brand.
With about 8 tablespoons of condensed milk in it.
Is that like the Nescafe Gold of instant coffee in South Africa that you're drinking?
The instant.
Come on, mate. You got to immerse yourself into the Melbourne life. Get out with some of the trendies down there. Billy Meek should be able to set you right. He knows some pretty decent spots, I reckon.
Yeah, he's got hookups all over the place, that guy.
Tommy English, he's pretty handy on that front as well.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, we've been rolling out these classic games over the last couple of weeks on Rugby.com.au. Who did we have last week, Beth? We had some really good ones across the weekend last week. Some Brumbies games, wasn't it?
Last week, I think we had a couple of TARS games. TARS games. Yeah, so there's a couple of classics. And last year's Perth Bledisloe as well on Saturday night. Yeah. Oh, did you say you watched it?
Good memories. What have we got coming this week, Beth Newman?
There's a few. It's Anzac Day weekend, so it's all Australia, New Zealand. Could be some schoolboys content, and also maybe the 2017 Bledisloe in Brisbane. So got a couple of classics coming up.
Before we let you fellas go, it was George Gregan's birthday this week, and Beth and I both thought, well, what a great way to celebrate the great man by digging out some of his all-time highlights. What's your favourite all-time George Gregan highlight?
Mine was the one where that's cross-home tuck in the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
94.
That comes to mind immediately.
Okay, that's not a bad shout. 94 v. Jeff Wilson in the corner at the SFS. Big fella. Griggs was 10 years into his career before you were even born. Did you know much about George Gregan growing up in South Africa?
Not much, no. I know his name, obviously, but I don't really think I saw any games of him before.
All right, we're going to have to give you an education. Listen, Ruan, that's your next job over ISO. Educate that man to your left on some of George Gregan's greatness. Beth, what's your pick? We'll roll the overlay in now. What's your pick?
I think mine's a little bit left field. It's the 2003 sledge, the 4 more years. I just don't think you can go past that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Perfect halfback moment, you know.
That was strong. That was strong. And Byron Kelleher, you know, I'm going to go the match-defining inside switch ball to Owen Finnegan in the World Cup final in 1999 when he threw it off.
I remember that as
you
well.
know that one?
Not bad.
That Gregan pass.
Oh, we don't even need the vision. You've got it, Shawnee.
Yeah, just
I'll find that vision for you. Don't worry. That stuff's play on. We'll be able to use that. And lastly, fellas, can you do us a favour? We need some more trick shots to roll in. Can you lead the charge on the Melbourne Rebels front? Quaid is obviously miles out in front. The QC Challenge doing some ridiculous stuff. Can you two come up with something for us?
Okay, we'll have a think.
We'll leave that with you.
Okay. Yeah, sweet.
Very good. Okie dokes, fellas, we're about to let you go for your braai. Any messages for your family and friends back in South Africa, Cabous?
Any messages?
Oh, no, I just want to tell my family I miss them and I love them. And thank you for everything they have done for me in the past and in the future that's coming.
Oh, it's very sweet. Ryan, any messages for JP?
No, I think he's busy doing his own thing, but I'm sure planning on seeing him shortly. And what happens then will happen, you know. Can't say that in front of the camera. But
all right, you guys go get prepping the braai, get the charcoal nicely whitened off, and you can throw some buvus on top of that. And don't forget, you can listen to this back as a podcast via Whooshka, Spotify, and Apple as well. Beth, Newman, we'll see you again next week. And to the two big boppers in Melbourne, thank you so much for joining us on Rugby Nation. And we can't wait to see you both back on the field soon. It looks like, Ruan, you've got a pretty decent offsider there. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys can do over the next little bit.
We will. We'll keep in touch, guys. Thanks for having us.
See you, boys. Take it easy.
Cheers, guys.